Melbourne's really lucky. We've got amongst the best water quality in the world. We've also got amongst the best water professionals in the world. So a lot of people come to Melbourne and Victoria in particular to learn about integrated water management. What that really means is how we can look at the whole water cycle, and that means water and wastewater and drainage, and link them all together to find really smart solutions. And the reason we need to do that is because in a changing climate and with a growing population, we can no longer continue to rely on just our dams to provide us with drinking water into the future. And sure, we've invested in a desalination plant based at Wonthaggi, but that shouldn't be our only option. What we want is a whole range of options to make sure we've got water security. And that's where integrated water management comes in. So what does it look like? Probably looks like things like harvesting stormwater that falls in our streets and our parks, using treated wastewater, which we call recycled water, as a really good resource for things like agriculture. During the Millennium Drought, we discovered the importance of green open space to Melbourne. Prior to that, the way that we've managed water was by putting on water restrictions, and that meant not only turning off the taps in our backyards, but also our public parks and things. And that's fine if you just do it for 1 year. What happened in the drought is it went for 10 years. And so what we saw was all the parks drying out, the grass turning brown, and even losing some trees. And that had a huge community impact. And that impact came in several ways. Things like sporting clubs, cricket clubs, football clubs couldn't use their ovals anymore. So people had to go and find other things to do. People love going to parks for walking the dog, for having picnics. That amenity, that living in a green landscape really matters. But also the parks are the lungs of the city. The trees clean the air, the parklands clean the stormwater before it hits Elster Creek in the bay. So having parks, having green parks is really, really important. What integrated water management does is it means that we have security of water supplies because we're harvesting stormwater, and therefore if we get water restrictions, we've got something we can turn to. We've got an option that doesn't just rely on tap water. We've got stormwater and recycled water to keep those parks green. So benefits of integrated water management include things like greener parks, keeping the city cool by having an air conditioning system and an evaporative cooler for the city, providing habitat in cities, providing habitat in urban areas, providing places for people to go to recreate, a bit of mindfulness, a bit of exercise, those sorts of things. Singapore is a really good example of integrated water management in practice. Singapore has a 4 taps policy. That means it gets its water from 4 different sources, and stormwater and recycled water are 2 of those sources. And the way they manage that is by using the entire catchment, the entire city of Singapore, which is an island, as its water supply catchment. So they capture all the water, it drains down to their marina barrage, and they clean it up to a really, really high standard, and then supply it back through the city. And the way they do that is by using what we call water-sensitive urban design. And for the untrained eye, that really looks like normal parks and gardens and vegetation in the streets and those sorts of things. But that vegetation is actually doing a really, really important job. As the stormwater filters through that vegetation in the streets, it gets cleaned. All the pollutants come out, all the nutrients come out, the water slows down and goes back into the groundwater. And then we can collect that and turn that into a resource and put it back into parks and gardens, or in Singapore's case, put it back through the taps. So part of my job at Monash is to think about what cities will look like in the future and the way that we manage water in cities. And initially we think about sort of technology solutions, how we can have smarter rainwater tanks, harvesting stormwater and those sort of things. And that's really, really important. But that's only half of the solution. The other half of the solution is the community or the stakeholder, or the people side of the problem, I suppose. And what we find there is it's as much about the rules and the regulations that we use that might be coming from state government or council government policies, as much as it is about behaviour in the home and behaviour in businesses. And that means conserving water, that means how we live with droughts and how we live with some of those changes in a changing climate, and the sort of actions that we take on a day-to-day basis, and the kind of way that we talk about water and have an empowered community that actually raises water issues with council and has a great conversation about what the future can look like. Part of that conversation about water is about what we want our city to look like and what we want our city to feel like. We know that our cities get hotter, so we need to have a conversation about the way that council manages its assets, the way it manages its parks and gardens, and the way it manages water and brings those things together to provide really good civic spaces, and then the way that that connects to public backyards and private backyards and that mix. So that conversation involves which council parks do we want to be very, very green, which one's more natural, how much water to use, where that water should come from, how we should treat it, all those sort of conversations, as well as what role community should play and what role council should play.